This is episode 261 of Real Me and a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Chase and Joel will take a look at the top 5 most anticipated films of 2019. It's a new year, it's a brand new year, fresh year, and we're going to see what makes the list, what doesn't make the list, what is going to be on there. Is there going to be a bunch of blockbusters, a bunch of indie films? Only one can tell, and all that and more on this week's episode. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Me and a movie podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and if you were looking on the internet for another movie podcast of any sort or any kind, don't look no further. You have reached the right one. I think we have a pretty good one here, and if you are a returning listener, please spread the word around and let people know this is what you come to for your movie news and reviews. And if you are new to the show, welcome. We love having new people coming in and listen, and even if you ditched us after the first 30, 40 seconds, that's all good. At least you found us, but hopefully you have stuck around. Typically what we do on the show is we'll go over some trailers, maybe some movie news and all that stuff, but this is a very special episode. It's the first episode to kick off the new year of 2019. It's our annual most anticipated episode list of the year. What movies have we are going to see, in the upcoming months? What is going to tickle our fancy the most? And that's all we're doing today. No news or trailers, so we're going to jump right into it. But before we do, I got to introduce the co-host over there. I'm looking at him right now because I'm in his house. I know that sounds creepier than it does, but I am looking at him in his house right now. So Joel, are you creeped out right now that I'm about like 50 feet away from you? Just kind of lurking.
Yeah, he's in my house. Send help. I'm just kidding. No, it's interesting. So we had just recorded an episode reviewing Aquaman and If Beale Street Could Talk, and that's landing on Sunday. This one's landing on Tuesday as of when we're recording. And our original setup was that we were both in my room. We were basically kind of talking just maybe, 10 feet away from each other. And now we're about 50 feet away from each other. I'm in a room looking at him as through a crack in my door, so that his voice doesn't travel too much, and so that I can still see him through the glass window door.
And I can tell you already right now that this intro is way better than the last one because we're not hunched over, we're not like really quiet.
Right. I was sitting in a swivel chair that I use for court reporting training. And
so his back is just messed up.
And my back was messed up. I mean, it's good if I'm just sitting there, but I was having to swivel, and anyway, it's terrible. So now I'm sitting in a nice cushioned chair that my family has owned for like 25 years, and it's way more comfortable here, even if I'm not in the room with Chase. It's a great little setup. I've got my computer. I've got the perfect angle in terms of where my microphone's plugged in. It's a great little setup, and I'm excited to get into this episode because it's, we've mentioned this before. It's a crazy year coming up. There's a bunch of stuff coming out, and surprisingly enough, I feel like my list is relatively quiet in terms of the amount of big movies that it has on there. It's only got one. It's not the one that everybody's going to be anticipating from me, I should say. But yeah, it's a great list. And I guess kind of leading into it, I just wanted to ask Chase before he gives his number 5, what's a movie on this that didn't make the list that people might be surprised didn't make the list, considering what they know about you, and if they know anything about the 2019 slate? It's like one that they thought would be on your list. What is one that almost made your list, kind of?
I think with a movie that I saw initially, and we both reviewed it on the show, I liked it, but I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now, so obviously I love it. It Chapter 2 is not on my list.
Okay, yeah, that one definitely not on my list. Probably wouldn't have been on my top 10 either.
I would put it on my top 10 easily.
Okay. It would probably be right outside because I'm definitely excited to see how kind of the generational thing happens, where
right.
You have The adults now are coming in and of these characters, these played by these kids in the first movie. But
I was going to say with the additions of like McAvoy and Hader and stuff, I'm just more curious about that.
It's great. It's great cast. Certainly excited for it on that basis. It would have escaped my tin only because there are others.
Right.
But the one that people are going to be surprised to hear is not on this list. As much as I'm looking forward to it, and I'm about to blow Chase's mind, he's about to like throw up his hands and walk out of my house. Not on my list. Star Wars Episode 9.
Okay, that is shocking to me.
Yes. And I mentioned the fact that there's going to be a huge movie on this list, but that would be my number 6. I cannot wait to see how this thing resolves, this new sequel trilogy, as they're calling it. Can't wait. Just there are other movies, there are 5 other movies.
That's crazy.
That I had to exclude that one for whatever reason. And it actually makes it really hard because what I've decided is that the only 5 trailers I'm going to be watching throughout the year are anything to do with my top 5 most anticipated. Now, that means I am not going to be watching the trailer for Star Wars Episode 9.
You're putting this. You're doing this to yourself. So if you go crazy or if you start developing a rash or something, I'm going to know where it came from. Because you refuse to watch that trailer.
I die from an aneurysm in the middle of you describing the Star Wars trailer.
See, that's going to be the fun part, is that since I'm taking over the trailers for this year, I have to describe to it in probably the worst fashion to the biggest Star Wars fan I know, and he's going to be rolling his eyes. He's going to be like, no, his name is not Hand Duo, it's Han Solo, you idiot. And then, of course, we're going to have this back and forth, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It may be that I crack and watch that one, but we'll see. But yeah, it just barely misses my list just because there's other stuff coming out, and I think that my list is going to surprise and delight some people. So yeah, but anyway, take us into your number 5.
So my number 5 is probably the most obvious choice. Well, maybe besides a couple more, but this is probably the most obvious choice because this is the movie that I have waited 11 years for. This is a movie that is going to break all types of records. This is going to go down in history as one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. And of course, you have to put Avengers Endgame on your list. Now, I only have technically 2 mainstream movies, and the rest are kind of more, well, one of them is a big independent movie, but I'll get to that in a second. But this is the biggest movie I have on my list, and it's not because I don't want to see anything else. I want to see Captain Marvel. I want to see an It Chapter 2. I want to see Toy Story 4. But if we're talking about most anticipated, something I'm looking forward to, and I've had 11 years of build-up for and this kind of like emotional connection to, how do you not put Avengers Endgame on your list? Like, this is going to change lives. I remember watching Infinity War both times in theaters. It was one of my favorite movie-going experiences of this past year, and it was because people of the shock and awe, the twists and turns that it took you on, this big, epic, grand adventure that it took you on, and now we're going to get part 2 of that. How can you not be excited for it? So that's my number 5. I mean, did you expect anything less?
I didn't, but I don't think that you expected that this is also my number 5.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I have it here above a Star Wars movie, which is insane.
I never thought I'd hear that out of your mouth.
I know. But, I mean, exactly what you're saying. How can you not have it? Because literally, even just the trailer, and I'm not even going to be talking about trailers anymore except for about this one, but Tony's drifting in space. Everybody thinks that they've lost completely. Clint Barton feels probably like he's lost his family, if that's the storyline they're going with there. They think that Ant-Man's dead, and reveals at the end of the trailer that he's not, even to them, at some point in this movie. It just is an event, and as much as Star Wars is an event, I feel like exactly what you're talking about with Infinity War, the twists and turns, that ending sequence of events, which is probably one of my big favorite movie moments of 2018.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like the ending of Infinity War, and I don't mean this because I'm riding the hype train on it. I think the ending to Infinity War is going to be one of the most remembered endings to any big blockbuster film of this decade.
It's on the level of something like the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's father. That whole sequence, which still works like gangbusters. Or the reveal of Voldemort at the end of Goblet of Fire. Or even just like the whole second half of Deathly Hallows, really. These big, big endings that have genuine meaning, real stakes, real emotion because of the strength of the actors, and especially with the ending of Infinity War, the thing plays out with no or little music. All of the reactions to the disintegrations were, or the people disintegrating, I should say, were improvised. That's strength of actors right there, and to follow that up with whatever they have in store for us, it's like you said, how can you not be excited? And as much as I'm more casually in the Marvel groove than you are, I can't deny that I'm so excited to see how this turns out, because they left us in such at such a genuine cliffhanger moment in Infinity War. And yeah, I mean, we're starting off well here. Same number 5. I feel like we're probably going to diverge from this point, but
probably.
Yeah, probably. But it's really, I'm so excited for this. So, yeah, my number 5 as well. What is your number 4?
Okay, so this is where it gets fascinating. As I was creating my list, I had a good 30 or 40 on my list, right? And I don't know why I put this one on here, considering it just kind of came out of nowhere, so to speak. I had films like the 2 space movies that we're going to get with like Ad Astra, High Life. I had stuff like Joker on there. But I was like, you know what? It might just because of the hype of the trailer that literally just came out a couple days ago, but I'm putting Us. I'm putting Us as number 4. It's just I like Get Out. I like it quite a bit. And it's like I was telling Joel, the more times you watch it, the more stuff you pick up on, the more kind of nuances in the writing that Jordan Peele won his Oscar for. I actually think Us will be better than Get Out. It has more of a psychological bend to it. It has more of a like social anxiety type of thematic thing going on with like playing with the I guess social anxieties that people have nowadays, and really kind of applying that to a literal sense of seeing yourself as like a killer or whatever. I don't know. It just seems like to me that he's more in tune with this in terms of hitting on all the social points, but while also creating like a fresh injection into the horror genre. And Joel, it might just be because we saw the trailer, but the fact that it's coming out in 3 months, and it's coming out around the same time as Get Out, I don't want to make predictions because I'm usually wrong. I think that not only will Us have the same staying power as Get Out did in the box office, I think we're looking at this rare instance where Jordan Peele might win his second original screenplay Oscar. If it's delivered well. If it is as good as this trailer is making it out to be, we could be looking at a consecutive win in the same category for Mr. Peele. And so, for all those reasons alone, and the fact that I love the cast, we have 2 Black Panther actors in there, which is great because beyond Black Panther, I didn't really know who Winston Duke was, so that's always great.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
That was his big breakthrough,
for
sure.
And Lupita is great, not only anything before Us, but in the Us trailer, because I know Joel's not watching trailers.
Right.
She plays a very, traditional, like, type of motherly role, and then when you see her as the killer, and she's looking back at her, she has this crazed look in her eye, so it's like this interesting kind of dual acting that these actors are kind of bouncing off of each other with. Bouncing, I guess, off with themselves, but that's not how it's shot. But it's just a fascinating looking movie. And horror movies, as when we get to my number 3, just to tease Joel a little bit, I just love when horror movies can do something different and really just go beyond the slasher, go beyond the paranormal stuff. I like those movies for popcorn sake, but I just love it when they kind of make you think a little bit and apply some really kind of nuanced filmmaking, like I said. So I know we just saw the trailer, Joel, but Us is my number 4.
It's really interesting. This is right outside my list. It would be probably my number 7 or 8, and that's even without seeing the trailer. I just think that the idea sounds so revolutionary in terms of, never revolutionary really, because it seems kind of like a horror twist on the plot of The One I Love from a few years ago, which I thought was an excellent film. But it is interesting because with something like this and Get Out and Hereditary, we're getting horror films that aren't afraid to go for the jugular in terms of the bold ideas. And these are conceptual ideas rather than visual ones, which
Right.
I think a lot of people kind of resent the horror genre for, in terms of going back to those wells a lot. And here we have this filmmaker with Jordan Peele who took this excellent, I mean, Get Out's a crazy awesome premise and paid off in dividends, especially on repeated viewings of that movie. It's the ultimate repeat viewing movie. I've seen it 4 times now, and I see something new in it every time, which is
See, Joel didn't notice the cereal thing until like, what was your second or
Right.
third time?
It was I think my 3rd time.
That's
Is
crazy.
when I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's what's going on here. There's a little visual hint, and it's just one of those things. And so this would be my number 7 or 8. It's very close. If we were doing another top 10 list, I would definitely have been talking about this one already, but really good choice. My number 4 is curious because we don't actually know the plot of this movie. But I believe that the directors Josh and Benny Safdie.
Oh man,
Yeah.
hold on. I did it again. Last year I did it again, or what was it? 2 years ago with Joel. I'm okay. I'm kicking myself in the butt, but I'm gonna stick with my list. I should have put this one on there.
Let's just say this is your number 6.
Yeah, I'll just say it's my number 6 because
that's a pretty good point.
I totally forgot
Yeah.
that this was even coming out, and now because I know who the Safdie brothers are. I know that Adam Sandler's in this. Like I'm so stoked for this. But I'll let you.
So the movie is Uncut Gems. We don't know the plot. We know that it's crime based, and that's about it. But it's got a great cast, a really weird cast of unexpected people. Adam Sandler, but also Pom Klementieff, Idina Menzel, Lakeith Stanfield, Judd Hirsch, Eric Bogosian. The Weeknd is in this, which is interesting. So, guys, I love the Safdies. Their movies, I've seen actually each of their movies twice. I did end up watching Good Time Again at some point in the last year, and I've seen each of their movies twice. Their first film was Heaven Knows What from back in 2015, and that one's a little more grungier, a little grittier than Good Time was. It was a little bit less of a genre film, but it was based on the real experiences of its screenwriter, who lived on the street and was addicted to drugs and all of that. And then Good Time was this sort of mid-'80s Scorsese-esque crime thriller that was kind of a day-in-the-life story, almost real-time kind of thing. It was about an hour and a half long, actually. I think that the events were too, where you had Robert Pattinson kind of escaping, trying to weasel his way out of these situations. And I just think that the Safdies have grown into these kinds of films that are just immediate and urgent, but also a great deal of fun to watch. Because beyond all of the urgency, I think Chase can agree with me on this. Good Time was fun.
It was so
And
good.
it was so much fun to try to watch this guy weasel his way out of stuff. And I argued then that film was a comedy. And it's a very, very kind of a sincere a sincerely faced comedy almost, or not sincere. What's the word I'm looking for? It's basically sort of like an austere kind of a straight-faced comedy.
Right.
But it is a comedy, and I think that it's a comedy about kind of a comedy of errors about a guy who we can't trust anything about his perspective, but it's just such a fun time. It's a good time, and that's a terrible joke, but it's
and it gave us one of the, I think, the best Robert Pattinson performance we ever got.
Yeah, it's his finest moment. I feel like maybe High Life might prove, in terms of getting a little bit better than that. But we'll see. That one didn't make this list either. But
yeah, I know which one did.
Yeah,
out of the space movies, I know which one did.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I can't wait to see what he has in store for us, especially with a cast like that, led by an actor who is a really solid actor when he's directed by a director who knows what he's doing. Whether it be somebody like Noah Baumbach with the Meyerowitz stories, or Paul Thomas Anderson with Punch Drunk Love, or James L. Brooks with Spanglish, great movie that nobody talks about anymore. But same year, I think, or the year after, something like that, Punch Drunk Love. But yeah, he's a great actor when given material and directed by a person who knows how to use a camera, and certainly the Safdies do. They are urgent, great filmmakers, and so that's why this is my number 4. I totally don't begrudge you for momentarily forgetting it, because it was not on my list until like a day ago, whenever I was looking and kind of just looking through, like a bunch of really anticipated movies lists, and that one came up, and I was like, oh man, I thought that it was coming out in 2020. I thought that they were shooting it this next year, but they've shot it, I think, or they're in the midst of that. And I don't think it has an official release date, but it is set to come out sometime this year. This year. So I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what it's about. This is going to be one of the trailers I watch, and I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, really, really excited for that one. So all right, what is your number 3?
So my number 3 is The Wild Card, because my top 2, it's probably going to be the most like
obvious.
Yeah, like it's just going to be like, okay, duh and duh. So about my number 3 though, I was looking at my list. I told you guys I like horror, and I love it when you can impress me on your first film, your second film.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yep.
Okay.
And I will tend to grasp onto those films more than like your space drama that you're going to put on there pretty soon, or there's a couple of ones I found with Mads Mikkelsen that looked really cool, or Penelope Cruz that looked really cool when I was looking through the list. But you know what? When you can have your directorial debut and blow my socks off with Hereditary, I'm going to look forward to anything you do next. And Ari Aster's next movie, Midsummer, or Samar, however you pronounce it, that's his next film. That is my 3rd on the list.
That's not where I thought you were going, actually. Although I'm not surprised that was the other direction that you could have gone. I thought that you were going to do Robert Eggers' next movie, because you were talking about horror.
Yeah, The Lighthouse, yeah.
Yeah, and
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, another Robert Pattinson thing.
I'm looking forward to it quite a bit, because I love The Witch.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about. Did that make? I think that almost made your top 10. That was on there. I think
it was just like right. It was either right in there or like right on the outside. I forgot, but I think this is how you pronounce it. Midsommar. It's Midsommar. I'm just
probably Midsummer, but I'm thinking that might be some like old English spelling of it.
Intentional spelling type of deal.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
But I don't know much about the plot. I just know that Ari is directing it, and this is his follow-up to a explosive debut with Hereditary. Still, if I had to do a top 5 theater experiences, Hereditary was easily on there. Half the people in my audience didn't know what was going on. The other half were just so clenched to their seats. They're just like, what is this madness? But yeah, I just absolutely love Hereditary. So, going into, follow-up fashion. I'm looking forward to whatever he does next. Don't know much about it, but seeing the technical abilities that he was able to pull off with his directorial debut, dude, sign me up. So this is my only wild card. These next two are no duh options, but this is where the I guess exciting part stops, because it's going to be very obvious from here.
Yeah, it's interesting because, this is going to get interesting really quickly. But my number 3 is indeed Ad Astra from director James Gray.
I knew it. As soon as I saw James Gray's next movie, I was like, he's going to put that on his list.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. I'm so excited. I love James Gray as a filmmaker. Everything back to, I haven't seen everything, but everything that I've seen back to The Yards from 2000, one of the best cop dramas I've ever seen. Absolute masterpiece on the level of just above something like The Departed. He's every bit as talented in making these kinds of movies as somebody like Martin Scorsese is, and I can't wait. It just, everything about this movie sounds great, from its plot and its cast. Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, just Jamie Kennedy, being in this. I can't wait. I love sci-fi. I love this kind of atmosphere that it's probably going to go for, which is Tarkovskian, because I can tell you right now, somebody is resolutely patient with his filmmaking, as James Gray is not going to make a laser blaster movie in space, as I like to call the faster ones. This is not going to be a Star Wars film, or in that vein. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be patient. It's going to be tender, because he makes tender, hugely emotional films, and I can't wait. He's one of my favorite filmmakers working right now. I said that whenever I had The Lost City of Z on my list of the best films of 2017. I think that The Immigrant was nearly on there. We on the Night is in my top 5 of 2007, which is a really difficult year to crack in general. And like I said, Yards, love it. This guy works miracles. He's a great filmmaker, and
so I have a question.
Sci-fi story. I just can't wait.
Is it possible that we could be looking at a very likely scenario where, if they are both as big as they are in terms of like the indie world and like just well reviewed, because I've heard nothing but great things on High Life, is it very possible that you could have 2 space dramas in your top 10 for next year?
It's very possible. And High Life is a movie that I'm sad to say was not on this list, but it's in my top 10. I think it was like number 9, something like that. The only thing keeping me from putting it higher is because I've seen one film from its director, Claire Denis. That was a film from this last year that was hugely praised, called Let the Sunshine In. I watched it at your house whenever I got the screener.
Yeah, I just want to let people know how crazy this guy is. We're in the midst of a festival watching 12 to 14 movies. And he's like, oh, I got this screener. I'm just going to watch something in between the amount of movies that we have. And it's like, you crazy SOB, man.
I'm a madman, and I watched it when we were preparing to leave, right? Like, we
Yeah,
were leaving in a couple hours.
Yeah, I was just like, what are you doing?
And I was underwhelmed with that one. It's an enormously popular critical hit, but it didn't work for me, and it's the only thing from her that I've seen, and I felt like her style was kind of very, in terms of just the character work, was kind of rudimentary, but we'll see. Certainly it's intriguing. It's got that same sort of Tarkovsky feel, very, very quiet, very thoughtful. The trailer was certainly intriguing. Didn't register as highly for me as I thought it might whenever I was compiling this list, but yeah, Ad Astra did. It stayed up there. It was on my list last year. I had it at a tie with Annihilation. And yeah, I mean, I ended up liking Annihilation a lot. So I'm hoping that this translates to a really, really strong experience for this. We shall see for sure. So yeah, this is interesting because I think I know what your number 2 and number 1 are, but what's your number 2?
Okay, prepare to be all the tension just deflated in the room, because we're going to start off with popular director number 1, Tarantino. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, come on. It's I'm a huge fan of the guy. I love The Hateful Eight, Django Unchained. Inglourious Bastards. Seeing modern Tarantino versus his older stuff has been quite an interesting ride, because we started out with, Nazi hunting, then we started out with, then it was slavery after that, and then it was a really claustrophobic Western. Like, it's just really awesome to kind of see his career take shape and doing these radically different projects. And this one,
he's got like a 30-0 gangster movie or something as his last one next. I think
it's like, what the, like, where does he come up with this stuff? And so, when you're going from a Western to now a time period where Manson was running rampant, and the Sharon Tate murder is in the backdrop, and then you have DiCaprio and Brad Pitt in the Hollywood scene in this movie. It's just bonkers. And I think what I'm really looking forward to the most is not only seeing the stat cast, but just seeing the look of the movie. I love his cinematography in all of his films. So seeing that paired with the time era with the production design, the costumes, is going to be a very colorful looking movie. And having his dialogue in that time period with these actors, it's Tarantino. The thing is with Tarantino versus my number one pick for this list is that my number one pick is directed by a guy that's generally loved by everybody. I get that Tarantino is kind of split down the middle. I don't understand why, but I love the guy. I typically am drawn to his kind of genre filmmaking that's just really aggressive and very dialogue, meaty, in your face type of filmmaking. I just love it, man. There's just such a throwback to like the 70s grindhouse movies. They just really kind of capture the spirit of going to the movies and watching this really kind of these epic adventures, but also kind of making it more play-centric with all the dialogue that he's got, stacked in there. So, I don't know, man. I just think out of all the modern ones he's done so far, this is like a nice culmination of everything, because you have Brad Pitt from Inglourious Basterds, you have DiCaprio from Django Unchained. I'm sure Samuel L. Jackson will pop up at some point. It's nice to see with him working with Margot Robbie for the first time. I'm excited to see her. Yeah, and Al Pacino. It's like,
for the first time.
It's crazy. It, like, what's weird is, like, Tarantino is the type of director that could save actors and actresses' careers. Like, I thought that Margot Robbie's best performance so far has been I, Tonya, and it's like, I think she can even topple that even more just working with under Tarantino. Yeah. And then with the
got Bruce Dern.
Yeah, Bruce Dern, like,
in this,
It's crazy. And then, like, when you think about Django Unchained and you think about the bloody improv scene that Leo did, and like what Brad Pitt did in Inglourious Basterds, like, he's willing to push these actors to their nth degree. And I'm excited to see that on screen. I'm excited to see these actors live in their element and just deliver explosive performances. So I know you're probably thinking, like, wow, you really love this movie. Well, my number one is such an obvious pick. I'm pretty sure it's on most everyone's list, because it's probably one of the most expensive, anticipated indies of all time. And
it's my number two, and that is The Irishman from director
what is that movie
Scorsese.
Again?
Huh?
What is that movie again?
The Irishman.
No, I don't know what that is. Can you explain to me who's in that? Who directed that?
Oh, Martin Scorsese?
I'm messing with you.
Oh.
Joel, Chase boy, pick up on that sarcasm.
Okay, so this is weird. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I keep trying to figure out how it's not on my top 5 most anticipated, because
that is very shocking to me.
It is. It's probably number 7. Like, whenever I was back saying Us is 7 or 8, it's probably number 8. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's number 7.
Would you say I'm more of a Tarantino fan than you are?
I have no idea. I have no idea how to measure that, but I would say that Pulp Fiction changed a lot for me.
Okay.
So I love Tarantino. I think that maybe you might be a slightly bigger fan of his later work that he's just done than me, maybe, because my favorite films of his are Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction. But I do love his work, though, pretty much all of it. And I think that Inglourious Basterds is handily the best film of 2009. But yeah, just other movies kind of shove their way in. I don't have any excuses for that. But my number two is the film you're alluding to, which is The Irishman from Martin Scorsese, which pairs up, you know, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and several other actors in there, including Anna Paquin.
Ray Romano is in there.
Ray Romano.
Awesome.
I can't wait for that. Great dramatic actor when given the material.
Yes.
Everybody knows him as Everybody Loves Raymond guy, but his work on Parenthood as a man discovering that he has autism is, bar none, some of the best midlife crisis acting I've ever seen. But anyway, The Irishman. How can it not be? It was my number 4 or 3. It was somewhere around there last year, whenever it was thought to be coming out in 2018 still. And who knows, it might be delayed again. But anyway, just obviously, just the whole story, it surrounds Jimmy Hoffa. It's a gangster story from the director who makes the best gangster movies ever. Goodfellas, Gangs of New York, kind of different vibe there, but
Casino,
gangster story. Casino, yeah, I haven't actually seen Casino. I know I own it, but that's a weird.
You will watch that before The Irishman.
I will be.
Do you hear me?
I will be. Actually, I have a project coming up to watch all of his movies that I have not seen, and that's I think that's the last one in terms of chronologically that I've not seen from him. I think I've seen everything since that movie, or maybe since no. I also haven't seen Kundun, his 1997 film, the period piece. But anyway, I'm going to be seeing all of his movies before this one because it just feels, this is apparently going to be one of his last films. I don't know, but
it might be after the financial sinking it might have.
Right, exactly. So I can't wait, and I'm I know that it's your number one, so you go into it for why you are so excited for this.
It's Scorsese. I remember when it's Scorsese. Come on. No, I've been a huge fan of his work ever since I saw what was the first? I believe it was either Casino or Goodfellas, and I was a teenager at the time. I was just kind of entranced by the filmmaking that this man brings to every single thing that he does, whether it be this kind of like floating cinematography, this really kind of swift editing style, the kind of engrossing world with these characters, or the type of music choices. It's always such a, like, you're almost like you're transported into another world, and you are in there, you're living in it. It is a living, breathing thing, and he just does not let you go. And I just love living in any type of movie that Scorsese throws at me. And then I've started to watch some of his older stuff, like I think After Hours is a really nice dark comedy that no one ever talks about.
That's another one on my project list.
It's really good, and that once again has some of the same tropes that he uses in other films, and it's a different genre. So, but I love this whole idea of bringing Pacino and De Niro together for the fourth time, hopefully for a better film than Righteous Kill. And then you have let's not talk about that. And then, of course, you have like a Ray Romano, Joe Pesci, and a classic gangster story that you would only suspect that Scorsese would handle. Here's my issue with this whole thing. I realize it is a passion project, but I hate that this is also a business. This movie is going to get swallowed up. And I don't know how. I guess Netflix doesn't care because they're already in like $700 billion in debt. But like, they acquired the rights to this movie. This movie has a budget of $100 million. It is, I think, one of the most expensive things that Scorsese has ever done. That includes the 3D filmmaking on Hugo. Yeah. So I don't know how they're going to do this business-wise. The only thing that's going to save this movie, and I firmly believe this, because we don't know what the Oscar nominations are yet. We have no idea how the show is going to go, how the ballots are going to be received. But I think Joel and I can understand, if Roma gets anywhere near Best Director, Best Picture, and actually claims those victories, if Netflix pushes The Irishman hard enough to entice people to go out to theaters and see it and pay money and stuff, it might have a saving grace. But if Roma doesn't really do that well, I don't think they're going to push it as hard, and that makes me kind of sad that that expensive film is going to live on Netflix, because this film might sink Scorsese into what you were saying, like this might be his last one, and it might be for financial reasons. And I just, because I'm not saying that he fronted $100 million, but this is through his company, right? His production company.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, he had to front most of this cash, and I just, it is so frustrating, because I know it's not going to really do that well, and it might sink some careers a little bit, or might be hesitant to keep going. But in terms of anticipation, I can't wait. I really hope, since Joel and I are part of, like critic circles here in Dallas, we have a PR group that specifically hypes up Netflix films. If they give us an invite to go see The Irishman in theaters, you can bet your butt we will be there. I will cancel all plans. Joel's going to quit his job. I'm going to leave my family, and we're going to see this movie tonight. No, I'm excited to see classic gangster Scorsese. We haven't really seen that since Departed, right? So it's been over 10 years, because I wouldn't really classify.
And even that one was sort of split between gangsters and cops.
And that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't really classify Wolf of Wall Street either, because that's more of like bankers in Wall Street. That's not really like Goodfellas or Casino. This is the first one where he's actually gone back to that. So I cannot wait.
It's somehow not my number one.
You're delusional.
What?
I said you're delusional.
Oh, delusional.
You're delusional.
Okay, so I kind of teased Chase before this. I was like, you won't be surprised once you hear my number one that it's my number one. And I don't know if he's guessed it. Have you guessed it, Chase?
Can you give me a hint?
No, because I'll just go into it.
I hate you.
So you can't guess it right off the bat.
No.
Okay. So, of course, this is my number one. It's an adaptation of one of my favorite novels. It features a cast from Emma Watson to Florence Pugh.
Oh, yeah, no duh.
Timothy Chalamet.
Okay, hold on before you continue.
My girlfriend, Saoirse Ronan.
I looked at this movie. I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on my list, and I'm just like, I think I even said when I put it on my list, Joel's going to put this on his because of the people in it, the person behind it, and the fact that it was his number one of last year. Okay, now this makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean, come on. It comes from the director, Greta Gerwig, who made my favorite film of 2017. Of course this is my number one. This comes out almost a year from now, and I need it now. Give it to me now. Anyway, I just did a little begging sort of funny act. So yeah, I can't wait. The whole story is wonderful. It's the novel is one of my favorites, and I can't wait to see what Gerwig has up her sleeve in terms of a period piece. This is kind of a first for her as a director. She co-directed a movie back in 2008, definitely modern. She directed Lady Bird, kind of a period piece to 2001, 2002, but not as much of a period piece as this. And this cast that she's accrued, everybody, isn't Meryl Streep in this? Pretty sure. So
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't wait. I just need it. I was looking at these lists, and that was the one that I was like, it's that one, because of the power behind it, the fact that Gerwig has already proved herself as a director, and the fact that it's an adaptation of a novel that I hold very dear. It was the clear choice, and I can't wait. It's going to be a Christmas gift to myself. It's a Christmas gift from Greta. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to finally lay my eyes on this movie after so much anticipation. And so very clearly my number one. All right, Chase. So recap your list, sir.
All right. So my number 5 is Avengers Endgame. Number 4 is Us. Number 3 is Midsummer. 2 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and number 1 is The Irishman. And I'm gonna make perfectly clear this time around, that I will not be screwed over by Happy Time Murders, and I'm going to make sure I picked all good ones because I was so disappointed when that movie came out to just be blah.
It was his number
4.
What was it? The number 4. That's right. Yeah. Because I went from and in fact my number 4 was The Irishman because I went from the Happy Time Murders to The Irishman. So my number 5 was also Avengers Endgame. To the surprise and delight of my co-host. My number 4 was Uncut Gems. My number 3 was Ad Astra. My number 2 was The Irishman, and my number 1 most anticipated film of the new year, Little Women. And yeah, we don't have like release dates on all of these things. We could have done
actually our number ones I think come out probably around the same time.
Yeah, probably so. It's probably going to be around a year before we see The Irishman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait for these movies, man. Just even all of yours, I was excited. The ones that weren't on my list, I'm excited for them. So, and I feel like it's probably the same thing the other direction. I'm really excited to see how this year shapes out. So that's pretty much it. You can find next episode is going to be our first review episode of the new year. It's episode 262. And that is, we are reviewing Escape Room. And
does it disturb you that I'm actually excited for that one?
Oh, no, it doesn't, because I am too. I think
it looks fun. I like it.
Really fun. I'm so glad that somebody finally took advantage of this premise of a room.
Yeah, finally, right? It's been around for like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, they're so much fun. And I am reviewing on the basis of sex. So that's
which I have already seen.
Yes. That's going to be the lineup next week. And all right, so you can find my writing at joelonfilm.com. I review movies over there, and also at dallasmoviescreenings.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling. That's REEL, then my name. You can follow my letterboxd at jcopling, and I think that's it. So, Chase, where can people find you and the podcast?
If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's at RealChaselee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get all the other reviews, but I'm also going to put them on here, so don't worry about it. And of course, for this podcast, whether you're listening on CastBox, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever, please spread this around, and let people know this is your favorite movie podcast to listen to. Let's grow. Let's grow even bigger this year in 2019. And then, of course, also the podcast has a Twitter account, which is Reel Me In Podcast. And then, so that's it for this episode, guys. Let us know down below what are some of your most anticipated films of this year, or you can, email us, Facebook us, whatever. I just like hearing from you guys. And then, of course, the first episode is Escape Room. Never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually looking forward to the first movie in January.
And the first horror movie of the year. It's never happened before,
right?
Especially because I know that you kind of like this movie, but the director of this movie made Insidious: The Last Key.
I actually like that one.
Kind of terrible. I know you did. So this is clearly much more of a passion project,
right?
Relative to that kind of concept. I'm excited for it.
Either way, it's just unheard of to like a horror movie at the beginning of January, but whatever. So that will be next week on episode 262, but this has been episode 261 of Reel Me In: a movie podcast. You stay awesome. Come back for next week, and Joel, let's have a good new year.
You too, sir.
All right.